by the needle, right through the bone, and I am lost to mother's only son, and I've sung my...
It's easy to say we will most certainly be a patriot, but can we be sure? What facts about the events surrounding the Revolution make you think so? During their study, students are encouraged to make connections between the Revolutionary revolts and reasons people revolt today. These essential questions and text-to-world connections are at the heart of this unit plan. At the beginning of this course, I began thinking about the topic I would choose to form a unit around. There's so many awesome topics in American history: the Civil War, the Industrial Revolution, colonization, but ultimately I settled on the beginnings of this great nation, the American Revolution. But it wasn't just the topic that helped form my final decision. As guided by the Assure model, I began to analyze my students. Yes, they are 8th graders between the ages of 13 and 14. Yes, this coming year I will have walking through my door 46 boys and 33 girls, all with varying learning styles and needs. But perhaps more importantly, these same students will, in 10th grade, be taking the American History EOC. If they want to graduate, they must pass. I think of it as building a home. You start with a foundation. The majority of these kids are former 5th grade students of mine. We worked hard laying a solid foundation in American history so that they were prepared for the 8th grade curriculum. The next step is building the walls. That is where this unit comes into play. Building on the solid foundation of background knowledge, this unit will cause students to not only add to their knowledge of facts, but encourage them to evaluate, analyze, and then apply their understanding of revolution. Finally, when students step into the 10th grade, they'll be ready to place the roof. Here, the high school teacher will lead students down the path to success on the EOC. So the topic was decided on. Now what? The next step in the Assure model is state objectives. Well, I didn't really do this step second. I actually combined it with step 3, select methods, materials, and media. This wasn't pretty, not gonna lie. I went to my classroom, dug through boxes of teacher resources and files, and brought home a load, and I mean a load, of printed materials. Some I'd used before, others had just been drawing dust. I spread them out over the vast expanse of my dining room table, leaving room for only my laptop. I spent days sifting through resources, searching the web, marking favorites, throwing out materials that were lame, the whole while referring back to the Common Core standards. How would this activity connect? This activity would cover history, reading, and writing standards. Keeper! While finding some new materials, I also pulled out the old ones that have withstood the test of time. My thinking began to change from oldie but a goodie to how can I adopt this to use with technology. That's when things got exciting. Hey, we could make a Voki with this. No wait, goanimate.com would be better. Wonder if there's something better out there. Surf the web. Bet my students will have some ideas of their own. Exciting times at the Maples family dining room table. Now that the materials were narrowed down, on to the U in the Assure model: utilize, media, materials, and methods. So what will have to happen behind the scenes? Okay, there's the obvious things like make copies, prepare quizzes, share forms via Google, arrange the seating to fit the lesson, make the materials accessible to students, steal the awesome new headphones from Emily Libert's room before school, charge the Chromebooks, duh. Make sure the school server isn't moving at a snail's pace. If it is, how can you mix it up? What can be changed or put off until tomorrow? We've all been there. Ready for the R. Require learner participation. This is the best part, right? In my unit, Road to War, students are studying the causes and effects leading up to the Revolution. First, we start with creating a KWL chart to help the students begin thinking about what they already know about the topic and then what they want to learn. I have a Mimeo in my classroom, so we would use it and save the chart as an ink file so that we can revisit it at the end of the unit. From there, students work in pairs to research what laws have the colonists in such a tizzy, like the Stamp Act, the Sugar Act, the Quartering Act, and the Townshend Acts. From there, we would work out ways to study political cartoons from the period and from today. Ultimately, students will create their own political cartoon in this unit that conveys a distinct point of view about the Stamp Act using Google Draw. Third, next, the students will go on a virtual tour of revolutionary Boston and witness the Boston Massacre via a way cool website I found while digging for resources. While on the tour, they will take notes of the differences in point of view of the British soldiers and the citizens of Boston. This leads up to a mock trial simulation with soldiers and citizens testifying and ultimately a jury deciding who was at fault. Can't wait to try this one out. The fourth thing I'll do is conjure up Patrick Henry from the dead, and he'll appear to my students to give his famous "Give me liberty" or "Give me death" speech. Students will read Paul Revere's Ride by Longfellow as a choral reading. My reluctant readers will be so excited by this. The list goes on and on. You'll have to read my unit to know what's in it. Unlike Congress, LOL. Finally, students will create a digital story, align them to make text-to-world connections. What kinds of revolts against government are taking place in our country, in our world? What connections can students make between these and the colonist protests at the beginning of the American Revolution? Can students see the issue from both points of view? Students will be given options for creating their digital story, Prezi, Google presentation, for example. The best part is they'll probably have ideas of their own, and I'll learn something new. Good stuff. Finally, the E in Assure, evaluate. Number 1, how am I going to evaluate my students? Pre-test, post-test, quizzes, grading of assignments, use of rubrics to evaluate activities and participation, class discussion, and effective questioning by the teacher to see if they're truly getting it. The list goes on. Number 2, how will students evaluate themselves? I developed a self-assessment form for students to use for self-reflection and for data gathering purpose for future planning by the teacher. One of the best aspects of the Assure model is that it takes evaluation a step further. I like that. Good teaching requires evaluation of ourselves, material, and then revision to ensure success of our students. So, I developed a media assessment form for teacher use at the end of the unit. What worked? What didn't? Why? Ideas? Admit it. We're so crunched for time, we teachers don't always take time to complete this important step. Oh, we'll remember that for next year. This is way easier. So the students have been evaluated, the media has been evaluated. What about the teacher? Personally, my principal does lots of walkthroughs and spends time in classrooms. If I give her a heads up of things to watch for, like effectiveness of a strategy, she'll give me feedback. You could do the same. But what are some other options? Have a fellow teacher hang out in the back of the room and then give you feedback. Maybe even videotape yourself and watch it later. That's always fun. If students self-evaluate, shouldn't we? That's it. My unit in a nutshell. For some detail, check out my unit plan at sites.google.com. Thanks.